If we Americans are to accept hatred, all right, and if Jimmy Kimmel had his way, he would destroy, and I don't mean that literally, but he'd celebrate if something bad happened to Trump or Trump was thrown out or any of that. So I just think that goes beyond.
You mean like when Trump said that? You mean like when the president says he's happy that Mueller's dead? Like that kind of thing?
Okay,
you think he'd say that if the president died?
That was an unfortunate remark.
Please like, subscribe, and share. Chris Cuomo takes on Bill O'Reilly on News Nation in a heated clash over media bias, free speech, and political rhetoric. Cuomo fires back with sharp facts, even using Donald Trump's own words, while O'Reilly struggles to keep pace. The debate quickly intensifies, diving into controversial commentary and broader issues like U.S. policy and global tensions. Let's jump in and see how Cuomo shuts O'Reilly down.
So tell me why the Kimmel thing makes sense.
Well, first of all, you didn't define it accurately. It's not about jokes. It's about hatred. So here you have a guy who, day in and day out, hates the president and the office of the presidency, in my opinion. And if the situation were reversed, if there were a right-wing commentator doing what Kimmel does, he would have been off the air eons ago. Disney would have never tolerated that. If you can imagine Barack Obama getting hated on every single day, that would never happen in a million years. The only reason Kimmel's there, for your audience to understand, is that Disney's been threatened by CIA and the other talent agencies that if you do anything to Jim, you're not going to get our personnel, writers and actors and things like that. And so Jim has got this layer of protection. But when Kimmel made the remark about MAGA being somewhat responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you'll remember that, I cut Kimmel some slack. I said, you know, people make mistakes and you do commentary and if you want to call it satire every night, you're going to get into waters sometimes that are difficult to get out of. So I'm not going to call for any sanctions against Kimmel. I believe I said that on this program. And I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. Because Kimmel has demonstrated to anybody who watches him that he hates. This is hate speech. It's not funny. It's not satire. There's no social redeeming quality to demeaning whenever he can the president and now the first lady. So that's how I would define it. You would define it as a bunch of jokes. I don't see it that way. So we have a gentleman's disagreement.
Well, we don't, because you have a right to your opinion. So do mine. So do I. But there's a lot of case law. See, that's what a lawyer like me looks at. And there is nothing approaching the standard that you want to apply. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. I don't think that's the problem.
No, I don't think that he should be subject to legal proceedings, Cuomo. So why are you putting words in my mouth? That's what's going on.
What do you call an FCC? What do you call an FCC review of the license of the stations? What do you call that? It's not legal?
What I call an FCC review, FCC review is an FCC review.
Yeah. And that's called a legal operation of the U.S. government. What are you talking about? They're legal proceedings. They take years. They take years of legal process, Bill. You got to do the research, pal. This is a nuisance.
The first step is an investigation, which is where we are now. Okay, they're looking at policies by Disney and others that may violate federal law. That's what they're doing now. Okay, nobody's been indicted.
We only know about
handcuffs,
8 Disney stations
around anybody's house.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This whole situation highlights how blurred the lines have become between free speech, media bias, and accountability in today's political commentary. What many people miss is that broadcast TV is actually regulated very differently from cable or podcasts. The FCC mainly deals with licensing, indecency rules, and public interest standards, not political opinions, so calls for government punishment over commentary usually don't stand up legally. There's also a bigger media issue at play. Research from groups like Pew shows audiences are more divided than ever, with people sticking to outlets that match their views. That kind of environment rewards outrage over balance, especially with social media algorithms pushing viral clips. Legally, satire and political commentary are strongly protected under the First Amendment, even when they're harsh or offensive. Courts have made it clear that bias or bad taste alone isn't enough for restriction. So this isn't just about one show or one host. It's about how political expression is defined in a media landscape where attention often matters more than accuracy.
Cuffed to have it be legal, right? I mean, you could get
Carr
audited.
made
That's
the
a legal
statement
process
yesterday.
also. Go ahead.
Okay. Look, I'm not interested in being in the weeds here, okay? I don't have a law degree, and I applaud yours. But I'm telling you, the man's a hater. And on any other scale, if he were not an avowed leftist, he would be off the air.
Greg Gutfeld's not off the air, and he's a toxic little troll that goes after every Democrat he can and other members of the media. And he's mean and hateful.
So I'm
he's
not
funny either, in my
justifying
opinion.
Greg Gutfeld. I'm not justifying Greg Gutfeld because I don't use that technique of justifying bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior. Now, you may think Mr. Gutfeld is a troll or whatever you said. He probably wears a hoodie, okay? And that's up to Fox to deal with him. Do I think it's right? I think that Gutfeld is a entertainer who seizes upon battering the left. I don't see him in the same category as Jimmy Kimmel. Perhaps I'm wrong.
Also, let me be very clear. I don't think Greg Gutfeld should lose his job. I think he should be able to do what he does and do his damnedest at it every night. Just like Kimmel.
Maybe
just
we
like
could have
you,
another show,
just like
though.
me. I fear the slippery slope.
Maybe we
my
should have
friend.
another
I fear
show
it.
for. Okay, I don't know about any slippery slopes, Cuomo, but maybe we should have another show for Mr. Gutfeld, the troll show. Okay, maybe we can have that. I don't know. I don't even know what the troll is. I think it's a little thing in Denmark that goes around barking at you.
Look
But
it up
anyway,
and you'll see a
the
picture of
seriousness
Gutfeld.
of this. Okay, I guess you don't like him.
Go ahead.
The seriousness.
I don't like him.
Of
I don't
this
like that
is-
technique. I don't like that invective. I don't know the guy. I don't know him to like
Okay.
him or dislike him. I wish him well, and I want him to be able to do what he does. I believe in freedom of speech. You got to tolerate what
well,
you
I'm
don't
glad-
like. This president
I'm
doesn't
glad
seem to
you-
like that standard.
I'm glad you're troll friendly, but this isn't about anything other than hate. Okay, that's what this is about. And if we
you.
Americans are to accept hatred, all right, and if Jimmy Kimmel had his way, he would destroy, and I don't mean that literally, but he'd celebrate if something bad happened to Trump or Trump was thrown out or any of that. So I just think that goes
You
beyond.
mean like when
the
Trump
line.
said that? You mean like when the president says he's happy that Mueller's dead? Like that? Like that kind of thing? You think he'd say that if the president died?
That was an unfortunate remark.
Please like, subscribe, and share. This debate quickly turns into a clash over where political commentary ends and real-world consequences begin. One side argues that regulators can't just punish speech. The FCC isn't a censorship tool. It focuses on licensing, public interest rules, and standards rooted in the Communications Act, not policing opinions. There's also the issue of inconsistency. Studies from Pew show audiences are more divided than ever, with people sticking to media that matches their views. That fuels outrage cycles and makes controversies feel selective and amplified, blurring the line between legal accountability and public backlash. Legally, the bar is extremely high. Supreme Court rulings like Brandenburg versus Ohio make it clear that only direct incitement can be restricted, not offensive or partisan speech. That's why even the most controversial figures stay on air. At its core, this isn't just about one moment. It's about the tension between emotional reactions and a legal system that moves slower and protects speech far more broadly.
Moral equivalency of a man who was battered by the phony Russian collusion, impeached twice, under daily hate speech by the media, which despises him, you're making a moral equivalency to Jimmy Kimmel. And there isn't one. Now, do I justify the Mueller comment? I do not. I don't. Okay, for me, but you have me on to give my opinion, Cuomo. Okay?
Exclusively.
So
Exclusively.
I don't justify
I want your opinion on something else. I got it. I'm just saying it's just a different standard. Trump doesn't live up to his own standard. That's the thing. That's called hypocrisy. It's not moral relativism. Please make your point, and I want to ask you about something else. So go ahead.
Okay, I already forgot what my point is. I'm still thinking about the hoodie.
I'm going to send you one. It's going to say "Free Asian," and then on the back it's going to say "But I love Trump."
Just have your picture on it. That's all I want.
Then you'll really be a target. Adam Smith was probing the topic of the nuclear enrichment with the Secretary of War. I want you to listen to a piece of it. Give me your take, please.
So they haven't broken yet. Okay, we haven't gotten there yet for all of the.
Well, their nuclear facilities have been obliterated. Underground, they're buried, and we're watching them 24/7. So we know where any nuclear material
reclaiming
might be.
my time for
we're
just a
watching
quick
it.
second here. We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions, and they had a conventional shield of thousands of missiles.
So Operation Midnight Hammer accomplished nothing of substance. It left us at exactly the same place we were before.
You think that answer
So I take my
gets him on
analysis
borrowed
on
time?
this from. I take my analysis from this. I don't know about Hagsteth. You know, it wasn't my choice. I didn't think that. Knowing President Trump the way I do, I didn't think that was the right situation there, just because of experience. But I take my information about this from the IAEA based in Austria, and I had him on my program. This guy is second in command. He says, look, we bombed the hell out of them last July and did severe damage to their nuclear ambitions. However, they had in other places in the country enriched uranium, and they pivoted right over to that to continue their pursuit of a nuclear weapon. That makes perfect sense to me, Cuomo. Does it not to you?
I think that their ambitions are clear. They would love to have a nuclear weapon. I think the mistake, as we've gone over before, is that predicating the need for imminent military action unilaterally on the basis of the emergency that they were weeks away from having a nuclear weapon.
Please like, subscribe, and share. This escalates quickly, but at its core is a familiar divide between evidence-based analysis and political framing. One side points to independent verification from groups like the International Atomic Energy Agency, which consistently notes that nuclear enrichment doesn't automatically mean a country has a usable weapon. Capability and weaponization aren't the same, and that distinction matters. History also plays a role. Intelligence failures, especially around Iraq in 2003, pushed analysts to rely on confirmed, multi-source evidence before declaring an immediate threat. That caution isn't political, it's standard practice. Even when strikes hit nuclear sites, the reality is more complex. Programs are often decentralized, and inspections plus satellite data frequently show enrichment can continue. That nuance gets lost in heated debates. So the real issue comes down to evidence versus assumption, verified data versus worst-case framing. And in nuclear geopolitics, that difference has serious global consequences. Tired of only hearing one side of the story? That's where ground news helps. It lets you compare how left, right, and center outlets cover the same story so you can see the full picture. Check the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage plan for deeper insight into media bias and trends.